Make their hearts skip a beat this Valentine's Day with Edible. With same-day delivery or local pickup, effortless gifting is just a click away. Choose from iconic chocolate-dipped strawberries, fresh arrangements, or decadent baked treats for your someone special. Order at edible.com or your local store.
Back pain and stiffness made mornings rough.
Pain made it tough to sleep until I started Cosentyx.
Cosentyx secukinumab is the #1 prescribed treatment for adults that targets IL-17A, a molecule that may play a role in inflammation that contributes to ankylosing spondyloarthritis or non-radiographic axial spondyloarthritis, 2 types of inflammatory arthritis of the spine. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some are fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com. Ask your doctor about Cosentyx.
I got real relief with Cosentyx.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace.
Last year, I went through many different life changes. I needed to take a pause and examine how I was feeling in the inside to better show up for the ones who need me to be my best version of myself.
When you're navigating life's changes, Talkspace can help. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatry providers that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Living a busy life, navigating a long-distance relationship, becoming a first-step father, Talkspace made all of those journeys possible. I could speak with my therapist in the office. I could speak with my therapist in the comfort of my home. I was never alone.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance, no problem. Now get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Hello, everybody. It's your good buddy, Jeremy Hokius Greco here with you today. This is going to be a really short episode. There's a lot of stuff going on outside of podcast and baseball land right now. So first of all, I do want to apologize that our latest episode has not uploaded yet. We recorded it. There was a technical glitch that Jacob is working on fixing now. So since Jacob is working on that, we're hoping to have it uploaded Saturday, fingers crossed. And since Jacob is working on that, I volunteered to do the really hard work. And that is yap at you for a few minutes about some news stuff. So the episode Saturday will contain our infield rankings. And then we're hoping to record a new episode on Sunday that will go up Monday that will have the outfield rankings. So we'll have the position player groups done. And then we'll get to the pitchers after that. And spring training is right around the corner. It's almost February already, everyone. Can you believe it? The Mets can believe it. The Mets are a highlight to me of this thing that I've been talking about of it's a long off season. Things take time. Mets fans were freaking out. All you've done is lose Pete Alonso and traded for an outfielder that we really liked for a second baseman. And then you signed another second baseman to play first base. And then this week they signed another second baseman to play third in Bo Bichette. Jorge Polanco was the one they signed to play first. And then they traded for Luis Robert Jr. To play center field. So that was looking pretty good. And then they traded for Freddy Peralta from the Mets. Now, Freddy is on the last year of his contract. He's getting about $8 million this year. Is he an ace? Hard to say. He's really good. He definitely improves the New York Mets. And that is what I wanted to talk to you about for just a few minutes here. I know this doesn't feel like it's Royals related, but it's a little Royals related, so bear with me. First of all, obviously it's Royals related in that with Freddy Peralta added in, they do seem a lot less likely to want Chris Bubich, which I was hoping they would sign Cody Bellinger and then trade for Chris Bubich. They could have paid a lot less for Chris Bubich than they ended up paying for Freddy Peralta, but them's the breaks, I guess. Freddy Peralta wasn't hurt last year. I don't know that he's as good as Chris Bubich when Chris Bubich is healthy, but he wasn't hurt. So fine. From the Mets' perspective, this makes sense. It makes their team better this year. They did give up a top pitching prospect in Sprout. I forgot his first name. Kyle, maybe? And then I'm probably misremembering that. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. It is Sprout. Where are you? This is good podcasting right here. Brandon Sprout. Kyle Sprout, I think, was a Royals prospect once upon a time who didn't work out, or might still be, hasn't worked out yet. So they traded Jet Williams, who is a legitimate top 100 prospect, and starting pitcher Brandon Sprout, who is pretty good, for Freddy Peralta and Tobias Myers. Now, the thing about Tobias Myers is that he's not a nobody. He actually looks pretty good too, though he is 27, so he's not a true prospect. So the Mets gave up 2 really good prospects for 2 pitchers, one of whom absolutely makes their rotation better this year, and another gives them some depth to weather some injuries. And you know, if their prospect guys like Jonah Tong and guys like him aren't quite ready, McLean aren't quite ready or are hurt, they've got some depth. Great move by the Mets. And on a pure value standpoint, it's a good move for the Brewers. I mean, they got a top 100 prospect. Sprout might be a top 100 prospect. Let me pull him up real quick and see if he counts as a top 100 prospect. He does. He is also. So they traded 2 top 100 prospects and got a near ace for 1 year and a younger pitcher who's shown some stuff, some flashes, though he's not, again, 27 years old, hasn't really made an impact in the big leagues, not really a prospect, but he's shown some flashes of being worth having. This is objectively a good move for both teams in a vacuum, but we don't live in a vacuum. We live in a world where both of these teams are allegedly trying to compete for the World Series this year. The Brewers have gone to the playoffs multiple years in a row. And there will be people out there saying, well, don't doubt the Brewers. They could develop pitching from nothing. Don't doubt the Brewers. It's given me some serious Rays vibes. People were talking about the Rays like they could just trade their aces. People still talk about them like this. They could just trade their aces away and still make the playoffs. And who knows what'll happen once you make it to the playoffs. But the Rays only made 1 World Series during that whole stretch of trading away their best players in the last year or 2 of their contracts, and they haven't won any. And the Brewers have made the playoffs multiple years, but they don't even usually make the championship series, much less the World Series. I don't think they've made a single World Series. So this is the dark side of when John Sherman says he wants to be more like the Brewers. This is where, okay, yeah, I understand why you'd want to be more like the Brewers, but also the Brewers don't get there. They're regularly competitive, which I think as Royals fans, we should all be excited about the potential for, you know, a decade of going to the playoffs, 6, 7, 8 years in a decade. That would be wild for Royals fans to be able to do that. But if you go to the playoffs every year and you don't really have a hope of getting very far into the playoffs, well, then you're the Alex Smith Chiefs, which the Alex Smith Chiefs, when they first started their whole thing, Alex Smith, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, they would make the playoffs. And it's like, they make the playoffs every year. That's so cool. I love it. I love it that my team keeps making the playoffs. But after a couple of years, it's like, yeah, but they don't have a team good enough to go deep in the playoffs. So how excited am I really? And that's kind of where the Brewers are. This is one of the things I talked about with Cole Reagans. You can't trade Cole Reagans away because if he's healthy, he drastically improves your playoff roster. Like, to ridiculous levels. Your playoff odds go way up having an ace like Cole Reagans on your team. Trading away a Freddy Peralta makes your team weaker in the postseason. The organization as a whole, counting prospects and et cetera, might be stronger after making this trade with the Mets. But their playoff chances and especially their odds of making successive rounds in the playoffs are worse this year. And this is my fear when it comes to the Royals, is that eventually the Royals are going to get to a point where they say, well, we're not going to pay our guys anymore. So far, they've paid their guys. They've paid Bobby Witt Jr., they paid Michael Wacha, they paid Seth Lugo, they paid Salvador Perez, they paid Michael Garcia. This is all good. This is where I want to be, is, you know, maybe you're not competing for the top free agents. I think they should be. I'm not going to argue about it today. They have been paying their guys. If they truly want to be like the Mets, or excuse me, like the Brewers and like the Rays, they stop paying their guys. When Chris Bubich, they don't even consider giving him a contract extension or signing him again after this year. Just doesn't even occur to them to try that. Again, this is a fear for the future more than for present, because if they were the real Rays, they would have found a way to trade him already, probably. Though he's been hurt, it's hard to say. Tyler Glasnow was hurt a lot. The Rays managed to figure that out, so I don't know. It does feel like the Royals are not the Brewers. They're willing to pay to play. But that brings me to my big overall point of everyone says salary cap, salary cap. Look at what the Dodgers did, salary cap, salary cap. The salary cap doesn't fix what the Brewers are doing. We all know it doesn't fix what the Pirates and the Twins are doing, but it doesn't fix what the Brewers are doing, which is saying we're not going to pay Freddy Peralta. We're not even going to keep him through the end of his really team-friendly contract that he signed to stick around with us because we don't want to pay him. We'd rather save that $8 million this year. We'd rather have prospects. And yeah, we're not going to the World Series this year because of it. I mean, obviously that's not exactly literally what they're saying, but it's not that far off. And for the Brewers to say, yeah, we're comfortable not going to the World Series this year in order to save some money. I mean, that's basically what they're saying is we will trade a greater chance for the World Series this year and the next couple of seasons to not pay people to save money. And that's where things are bad. It's not what the Dodgers are doing. It's what teams like the Brewers are doing, what teams like the Guardians are doing. I was reading David Lesky was talking about, some stuff about, how do the Royals rank and blah, blah, blah this morning in his newsletter. And he mentioned that, and this is something I've talked about multiple times, the Royals' biggest way to improve, most teams, when they're as good as the Royals are, can't improve easily just by removing the bottom of the roster, but the Royals can. And he pointed out that the Guardians can too. The difference, and he said, maybe I should be scared of that. And my argument is no, you shouldn't be scared of that. The Guardians aren't trying. The Guardians aren't going to do what the Royals are currently doing, which is spend a little bit of money and try to make your team a little bit more competitive. The Guardians got a little lucky to make the playoffs last year. The Royals got a little lucky to make it 2 years ago. The Royals got a little unlucky. Not a lot unlucky, but I'll grant you it was a little unlucky last year. Missed the playoffs. If the Royals had gotten as lucky as the Guardians, they would have made the playoffs. Their rosters are pretty comparable. The Royals, I think the Royals might have the better roster. But that's how lucky the Guardians were last year. The Guardians aren't adding anything this year. Everyone wondered if they were just going to trade their guys away. And they did trade guys away. At the deadline, they traded away Shane Bieber. They traded away Paul Sewald, I think. They're not adding. They're subtract. They made the playoffs in 24 and then traded away Josh Naylor. This is what teams are doing. Is there's the obvious, there's the Pirates and the Twins and the Athletics, but there's the not so obvious of the Brewers, the Rays, the Guardians, which are like, oh, everyone looks at them and says, oh, they're so smart. They managed to win without spending a lot of money, but they also managed to never get all the way to the World Series because they don't spend even a little bit more money. And that's the real problem, the real inequality in baseball right now is that teams in the middle ground, like the Brewers, Guardians, and to a lesser degree, the Royals and the Rays, they're not willing to pay to go over the top. If the Royals had paid Bo Bichette to come to Kansas City, if they'd been willing to give him more years and do it earlier, maybe they don't have to outbid the Mets. I don't know how the money works necessarily, but they could have also afforded to give him the deal that the Mets gave him. They could have given Bellinger the deal that the Yankees gave him. If they had gone out and done that, they would be clear favorites for the division right now. Clear favorites. And they would be truly competitive for the World Series. As things stand, I think they've got a shot at the division. And with Cole Reagans and Bobby Witt on your team, you're never out of World Series competition if you make it to the playoffs. But there's more to it. There's just a level that you can go that isn't spending like the Dodgers where you can compete. And It's a risk, sure, because if you add a Cody Bellinger or a Bo Bichette and it doesn't work out, well, now you're kind of unable to spend any money, or you'll say you're unable to spend any money on any other guys. I'm not going to get into the budgets versus hard limits versus profits versus hobbies right now. So I'll just say you put yourself in a dilemma where, oops, we're paying a lot of money to this guy who didn't actually end up helping us, and now we're not going to compete at all for the next few years. So basically, it's a trade-off that these kind of middle-tier teams are making. And frankly, I think baseball would be more interesting if they would take a few more risks. But business is notoriously risk-averse, especially in the modern era of business. So that's why you see all these subscription models. They don't want to sell their movies. All these companies are putting their movies on subscription services because they want subscription money, because that is consistent. Whereas if I put a movie in the movie theater, maybe it blows up and I do crazy things, or maybe it bombs and I lose money. If you take a K-pop Demon Hunters and you put it on Netflix, if it blows up, you get a few more subscriptions. You don't get the high that you would have gotten if you'd put it in a movie theater and it blew up. But if it bombs, you're not going to probably lose any subscriptions over that. So you've hedged your bets. You've removed risk from the equation, and that's what MLB teams are doing. When the Dodgers go out and spend this money, they're willing to take on some risk. When the Mets go out and spend this money, they're willing to take on some risk. You know, the Blue Jays are one of the biggest spenders in the sport, but they're not with the Dodgers or the Mets because they're not willing to take the same risks. Now, they took a risk on Santander last year. It was a lesser risk. It also was more likely to blow up than paying a Bo Bichette or a Cody Bellinger, and it did. It blew up in their faces. So you gotta trust the risks that you're making, but you gotta make risks. And I think teams are so risk averse now that is the true bane of baseball. Isn't the spending that the Dodgers and the Mets do? It is the unwillingness of the mid-tier teams to just reach, to just stretch, to just risk a little bit, even a little bit. Now, if they risked a lot, you'd have other situations where you could go even higher, perhaps. But, you know, they just won't do any of it. And it's frustrating to me as a fan of the sport to look around and go, you're so close. And then everyone says, but the Dodgers need to spend less. No, if the Brewers would just sign Peralta to a little extension, they could be good this year and continue being good for the next few years. Whereas so often the dichotomy is presented, well, they could be good with Peralta this year, or they could have Jet Williams and Brandon Sproat next year and be good for the next few years because of those two guys. You could have had it both ways by signing Peralta to an extension. That was also an option. Just because you pretend like it isn't doesn't mean it isn't. All right, I have yapped enough at you about this. I hope that you will all join us when the next podcast episode comes out to talk about the infield rankings of the Royals. There are some interesting guys in the lower levels. There are some guys that I'm a little excited about. So I hope you'll join us. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, go Royals!
Sniffle season happens, and when it does, your skin deserves comfort. That's why Kleenex lotion tissues are made with moisturizing ingredients and offer 3-in-1 skin-loving benefits, helping protect, soothe, and moisturize your skin. So whether you're at home, on the go, or just living life, keep Kleenex lotion close for a little extra care that makes a big difference. For whatever happens next, grab Kleenex.
Nunca es tarde para aprender algo nuevo, pero tu sistema inmunológico no aprende igual con los años. Las vacunas ayudan a entrenar y reforzar al sistema inmunológico para combatir influenza, neumonía neumocócica, RSV y COVID-19. Tal como tú aprendes algo nuevo, tu sistema inmunológico también aprende a defenderte de enfermedades respiratorias. Verifica tu elegibilidad y haz tu cita en vaxassist.com/ES. Presentado por Pfizer.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.